pressing buttons. We're all humans around here, my darling. We're all humans.
We are indeed, yes.
Okay, so lovely friends, I would love to introduce you to Tracey. She and I had a very good conversation about biscuits last week. But other than that, I understand that Tracey is going to make small business, specifically tax, simple. So I am curious to know how she's going to do that because, yeah, I did it.
Because it's not.
Okay, very good. No, because not. So, Tracey, I'm going to hand over to you if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your background and a little bit how you're going to help us. And we will do our best to throw questions in the chat, and I will pause you at appropriate points, and we'll see if we can make this a really interactive session. Is that okay?
Let's go. Actually prepared a presentation which I can probably fly through in about 20 minutes, which might answer some of the questions before they're asked, and just do a little bit of introduction of me.
Awesome.
Although I generally tend to find that most people don't care who I am, don't care where I came from, but actually just want to know how I can help them, because like you say, it's tax, and the minute we hear that word, the brain just kind of closes down and just goes into survival mode, and I don't really care, you know.
But, do you know what, that is extremely wise, but we do care. So tell us.
But if I
let's go.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Yeah, at any point, if anybody does, if anything I say kicks up any question, by all means put them in the chat. If Julia thinks it needs dealing with immediately, then by all means interrupt me. If not, I can go back at the end and I'll just go through all of the different questions. I'm going to keep it quite basic today. Hopefully it's not going to be teaching anybody how to suck eggs, but we'll see where we go. This is the first time.
Some of us genuinely don't know how to suck eggs, so just please right. don't be shy, patronize us.
Okay, so if I do that, can you see a big purple screen with lots of writing on?
Certainly can.
You can, right. Okay, so we very without much thought titled this Self-Employment and Self-Assessment. Not scary, not difficult, not complicated, how it can be simple. And I know that most people are going, no, it can't, it's horrible, but trust me, it so can be. It is made scary and difficult and complicated, kind of on purpose to put people off trying to do it, but there's really actually no need. Now I must put a caveat in here that says that this is for self-employed and sole trader businesses really only. Now, obviously, accounting principles apply to if you're running a limited company as well, you know, how you should process things and what to keep and things like that. But the rules are slightly different. So this is primarily aimed at sole trader, self-employed, who have to do their own self-assessment tax return at the end of every tax year. So if you are limited, please stick around and I can help you as well. But that's what today is. So first of all, who am I? My name is Tracey Robertson, and I am the self-titled small business accounts coach. I am not a business coach. I am not a life coach. I am not a mindset coach or any of those other coaches that are out there these days. And I am not an accountant. I ran my own bookkeeping practice for about 12 years, and dealing with everybody's bits of paper and things just made me miserable, because I was at everybody else's beck and call and it was no work-life balance for me. But I actually realised that there was a massive gap between lots of people who could actually do their own if they were willing to learn, which as tutors you will know that, you know, you can lead a horse to water, you cannot make it drink. But if somebody is actually willing to learn, then you can do so much with them. And actually, I appear to have a way of being able to explain things in ways that people can understand. And I'm quite happy to try 4 or 5 different ways of explaining something until somebody gets whatever it is they don't get. So that's why coach. I wouldn't dream of calling myself a teacher or a tutor or anything else like that, because I just am not. So what I am not, then, I am not an accountant. I am not a fearmonger. I am not here to tell you, oh God, if you don't do it right, then you're going to end up with lots of fines and you're going to, you know, end up in jail and all of this. Don't do that. I'm not a money grabber. Yes, clearly I want paying for my time and expertise like everybody else does, but I am not here to charge as some of the horrific fees I've seen some people this year paying for actually not a lot of service and certainly no explanation. And for those of you who are perhaps looking for a bookkeeper to do your accounts for you, I am not that either. I did my time doing that. I'm a great believer in, even if you don't want to do it yourself, and even if you are going to ultimately outsource something to somebody else, you really do need a basic understanding of what it is that you're asking somebody else to do. Otherwise, how do you know they're doing a good job for you? You don't. So, you know, at least have this basic understanding. So what do I do then if I don't do any of that? And what do I know stuff. I've been in the accounts world for nearly 30 years, which is not where I started off being, but that's another story for another time. I have lots of experience dealing with small business owners, sole traders, self-employed people. I have oodles of testimonials if anybody wants to see anything with people I've worked with, particularly this year, and I make things simple. Now, I love an acronym, so my simple acronym stands for stress-free, integrated, monitored, personalised, legal and easy. Now, that generally applies to people using account systems, which, to be fair, most of you will probably not need, but it can still apply. Simple is simple, isn't it? So there we go. So business, what does it actually mean? So business, basically, if you swap your time, expertise, knowledge, goods or service, goods that you make or provide for money with somebody else, you're in business. That is as simple as that. So you may not think you're a business owner because you are just self-employed, or you are just a sole trader or a freelancer, but any of those words there, they all mean that you are in business. And being in business means that you have obligations to complete tax returns of some sort. If you're limited, it's year-end accounts and corporation tax returns. If you're a sole trader and self-employed, it is your self-assessment tax return. Now, lots of people have to do a self-assessment tax return, even if they're not in business, but we're not too worried about them today. We're talking to you who are self-employed sole traders and you are a business owner. So you have decided that you are going to be in business, you are going to be a tutor, and you are going to swap your lots of experience and knowledge and qualifications and your skills at teaching people for money. I'm assuming usually from parents whose children need a bit of extra help. So the first thing you need to do, if you decide that you want to give this a go, is tell HMRC and register as self-employed and register for self-assessment. They are two different things, but very often they'll do it at the same time. If you already have a personal tax account, which if you have created, you've got one of those government gateway IDs, go there first. And on there will be an option somewhere, and I can't tell you exactly where because HMRC keep changing the bloody screens, so I can't do a screenshot because I can't have a dummy account. I'm already registered, so it's all a bit kind of vague at this point. But log into your government gateway ID tax account, find the self-employment self-assessment bit or add a tax, and you can do it all through there. The important bit that you're looking for is your UTR number. And once you've got that UTR number from HMRC, you're good to go as far as they're concerned. If you don't already have a government gateway ID, then just Google register for self-employment and it will bring you up. And the first thing it will do is, if you haven't got one of those, it will register you for a personal tax account first. That will take a few days. So don't leave it until you're up against a deadline, because they will send you an activation code in the post that you will then have 28 days to use to then do the next bit on your account. So that's the first thing that you have to do. Get your UTR number, on off we go. And you will see lots of things that says, oh, well, you don't have to register until the 5th of October after the end of the first tax year in which you start to trade. Technically, yes, that's correct, but Being in business means that you have an intention to make a profit, which you all do, because otherwise why on earth would you be doing this? You just wouldn't. Yes, some people start things as a hobby. That's normally things like, I don't know, baking cakes or selling Avon or something like that. And a hobby then may become a business if it exceeds a certain profit, a certain sales threshold. But you are from the outset got an intention to make money. So therefore, register as soon as you can. Get it done, get it out of the way, and you don't have to worry about it. The tax year, which if you have been in employment and got pay slips from an employer, the tax year runs from the 6th of April one year to the 5th of April the year after. Why it's such stupid dates, I do not know, but it is, and it always has been, so we're stuck with that. And you have an obligation to complete your self-assessment tax return by the following 31st of January. So we have a whole like 9, nearly 10 months to send the tax return for the tax year that we've been in. Again, I don't ever recommend anybody leaves it till January because it makes no sense. But that's in a different webinar altogether. Step 2, as I've been reliably advised by the lovely Julia, is that you will need professional indemnity insurance and you will need to do your DBS registration check. Those are things that I do not know about and cannot help you, but I'm sure that there are other people on this in this community that can. So once you have those two and your UTR, you can start. You can go out, you can find some clients, you can teach, you can get some money in. So you need to keep accounts. Now, you might not call it accounts. You might call it bookkeeping. You might call it record keeping. It's just money in and out. It's income and expenses. It's sales and expenses. Whatever it is you call it, it is ostensibly just keeping a track of accounts. So that's what we're going to do. And accounts is money in, money out. And then your profit, which is the bit you kind of get to keep, but after you've paid tax, is yours. So how do we keep accounts? Because the very word in itself is fearful. And trust me, I've seen everything and nothing, and even, yes, just you don't even want to know. So basically, I would always recommend that even though you are only a sole trader, therefore you do not need to have a business bank account as the banks would define it. You don't need to go to them and say, I'm starting in business, I need a bank account, and they will charge you for the privilege of having one. Or they might give you a year or two free, and then they'll charge you for the privilege of having one. If you're a limited company, then you absolutely do need to have a limited company bank account. That's a whole new legal entity. But as a sole trader, you do not. But I do always recommend using a separate bank account to the one that you will pay your bills out of, that you will go to Tesco's with, that you have, if you are employed as well, that your wages will go into your personal bank account. So this is a separate one that I recommend business money in and as much of your business expenses out as you possibly can. It just makes life a bit easier. And then you need some kind of system to record your money in and your money out. Now, you could use, I'm sure you've seen them all on the TV, all of these account systems that are just so easy and so magic, and you just download them and you put this in and you press a button and it gives you all you need to know. Sadly, at best, those are misleading, and I do get a bee in my bonnet about them because they are so misleading. They are not as simple as they say they are, unless you do know what you're doing and have a bit of an accounting experience or knowledge. But spreadsheets, again, are the things that, unless you work in that field, can strike the fear of God into people. But basically, a spreadsheet is just a list. We're not talking about creating a spreadsheet that'll send a rocket to the moon. We are basically talking about a list. So basically, you can have three, if you need 2 or 3 tabs on your spreadsheet. One, a summary of your invoices that you are raising and sending to your clients. And the second one, a summary of your expenses, and you can total both of those up. If you go out and about to your clients. I know lots of us do lots of work online these days. Certainly I don't go anywhere these days, bar the kitchen to put the kettle on. But if you do incur mileage as a part of your business, then you just need to keep a mileage log as well. So invoices. I mean, the first thing about in being business is people need to be paying you. So therefore, you need to issue invoices so they know how much to pay you and how to pay you. So if you do use an account system, I'm not dissing those. The main part of my business is setting up those systems for people to use. But if you use a system, invoices will be included. You will just raise them on there and they will keep them on there. However, most sole traders don't need an account system when they're just swapping their time for money. So if you're doing this manually, find a template you like, put your details in for your customer, save it as a PDF, email it, keep a copy, record it on that spreadsheet, and that's pretty much it. Technically, it needs sequential numbering and some specific information on there about you, but I'm not going to go into that much detail here. I will do in the hub on QT, I'll go into more detail on that and give you an example if anybody needs to go and have a look at that later. Expenses. So you're going to record your income. You're also going to record your expenses. Now, as a sole trader, allowable expenses should be wholly and exclusively for the needs of the business, which means that whatever the expense is, it has to be all for the business and only for the business. So I have had people try to claim a honeymoon to Las Vegas because, well, you know, I'm going to have a client meeting whilst I'm out there, you know, for half an hour in a 10-day holiday or something. Not wholly and not exclusive, not allowed. I do like to create industry-specific lists of common allowable expenses for your industry, because I've not been around here long enough yet. I haven't got that information. So I'm hoping to maybe pick some brains today of you tell me what expenses are common to you, and I will create this spread, you know, a PDF that you can then have to check at any time you like. Again, expenses, record them on your list. I'm going to call it a list, not a spreadsheet. Now, expenses, it doesn't matter who pays for them or how they are paid. So yes, ideally, you know, maybe it's your insurance, or maybe it's a piece of software that you want, or maybe it's some resources that you need to teach your particular subject. If you pay for them through that business bank account, fine, super. If you put them on your personal credit card, again, doesn't matter. It's still an allowable business expense. Granny pays it, it doesn't matter. Allowable business expense, stick it on your list, and always keep a proof of purchase, ideally an invoice or a receipt that details what you've bought, but you know, just something to prove. And a lot of this record keeping is only if you were ever asked to prove something. The odds on being picked for an investigation to prove anything are quite minimal if you are doing things right. And you know, nobody can guarantee you wouldn't ever get picked, because they do random checks. But if you're doing things and keeping records and being sensible and not claiming for things that you shouldn't be, then you're going to be fine. But clearly, you know, you get a letter that says you can have an investigation. If you know you've got all this set up, it's not a stress at all. Some expenses, although I've just said wholly and exclusively, I'm going to contradict myself now and say some things actually are dual purpose. So for instance, mobile phones and broadbands are allowable now. That, I mean, I have 2 mobile phone numbers. I have a dual SIM phone.
Oh, goodness me. I can't let you, is there an echo here?
No.
Yeah.
No, go on.
I can't let you miss out on this fabulous thing that Sam just said in the chat.
Oh, go on. What's that? I'm not looking at the chat because it'll distract me from what I'm doing. So
I understand.
Read them later. Go on.
Sam just said that they picked her father-in-law and recovered an additional £2.38 in
Yes,
tax.
yeah. Or they will find something to justify their existence. Trust me,
Well,
they will.
apparently it took months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, they just justify their exit. This, yeah, I know this is being recorded, but I'm sure it's a closed community. But yeah, they will absolutely have to find something to
It
justify
is,
their
my
existence.
darling, that we are live streaming this, so
It'll be fine.
you should also know that everybody is excited about participating in a PDF that lists business industry specific expenses.
Okay,
We're very into that list.
right. Okay, so whilst I have a dual SIM phone and I put one through the business and pay for one personally, most people actually only have one number. But you use it for both personal and business. So you kind of have to do a sensible guess as to how much of that usage is business. 20%, 30%, 50%, even 80% if you work your socks off, and claim that amount of your mobile phone bill every month. Maybe keep, if it's the same amount every month, keep one copy of a bill just to prove that that's what it is. So long as you're picking a sensible, reasonable amount, then it's fine. And the same with broadband. Now, the only caveat I would go with broadband is if your broadband is part of a bigger bill that includes TV packages and things, entertainment packages and things, it is only the broadband fee. And this is if you really work from home and you do things online and you communicate with your clients online, perhaps you hold Zoom lessons, things like this. Now, I claim 75% of my broadband because there's only me and my husband. He's retired and I work from home all day, every day. If we had 5 teenage children in the house who were all streaming and gaming and doing whatever it is teenage children do these days, then clearly my business percentage use would be much, much less. So maybe 10%. So that would be the amount I would claim. So just have a common sense, guesstimate, if you like. Work from home allowance. There are 2 ways of doing this. One is a sliding scale, which is much the simplest. If you do between 25 and 50 hours a month, it's £10 a month. If you do between 50 and 100, it's 18. And if you do more than 101 hours or more for a home from a month, it's £26. There are other ways of doing it, but as I say, the simplified way is just much easier. And that is designed to cover the extra lighting and heating and energy use that you will use for working from home instead of going to an office or to an employer. Mileage at 45p. Again, there's another way of doing it, but that is much more complicated and involves keeping a full record of all of your mileage for all of the year and keeping all of your receipts and records and everything. If you do mileage at 45p, no receipts, no fuel receipts, no faffing about. So that's, again, much easier. And also, when I have crunched the numbers with different people at different times, it very rarely actually works out any worse off. So, just make life easy for yourself. And again, record all of those on your list under your expenses. That's all you need to do. And this one is, all right, by virtue of being self-employed or a sole trader, you become a collector for the taxman, or you're only collecting your own tax. So save for tax. Every bit that comes in, save a part of it, a percentage of it, for your tax bill, particularly if it's your first year, because you will need to make a payment on account for the second year. And again, this is something I'll go into in more detail in a different webinar. But if you're new to this and you're trying to just find the simple way of doing it, remember everybody has a tax-free allowance, which is normally £12,570 in any tax year. So that's the 6th to the 5th of April. Now, if you are employed as well as self-employed, it is likely that your tax-free allowance has been taken up already by the employment salary that you get. So therefore, the rest of it is income tax that you need to pay. Now, remember, as a self-employed person, you're only going to be paying income tax on your profit, not your income. So income tax up to just over 50,000 at 20%, just over up to £50,000 and 40% over that. I'm not going to go into the additional higher rate because I guess if anybody's earning more than £100,000 a year, then you're probably not going to be on this webinar. In Scotland, it's slightly different, and I believe in Wales, it's maybe slightly different as well, but that generally is around about what it is. You will also have to pay national insurance of class 2 of £3.45 a week in this particular tax year, and class 4 of 9% of all of your profit above 12,570. You will also have to pay, if you have a student loan, you will need to pay student loan at a whatever percentage it is for whatever plan you've got. There are far too many for me to go into detail here because they've made that as complicated as they could possibly do. So if it's your first year, a good rule of thumb is about 40%, maybe 50% if you've got student loans. If you've done your first year and you're now only paying your 2 payments on account every year, then you can probably reduce it to about 30%, maybe 20 to 30%, depending on how many expenses you've got. But better to save too much than too little. And then do your tax return. Do it in April or as soon as you can. So if you're listening to this and you haven't done your 22-23 tax return yet, don't panic, we do still have time. But when it comes to April this year, do your 23-24 as soon as you possibly can. You do not need an accountant to do it if your tax affairs are quite simple. So if you are only self-employed, or you are employed and self-employed, or even if you have rental income as well, but you still do not need an accountant. It is possible to do it yourself. Though some people like a bit of support, which is why I do what I do. So those of you that haven't done your 22-23 are quite possibly panicking now, but don't worry, you're not late. You do have till 31st of January. However, we are now over halfway through November, Christmas is coming up, and then it's January, and then we're there. So please do not leave it till the very, very last minute, because if you haven't saved enough money up for a tax bill, that if it's your first tax return, maybe an unexpectedly high because of the payment on account, you will not get any sympathy from HMRC if you don't have the money. Which is why I would always suggest do it in an April, because then if you haven't saved your money up throughout the year, you have a full 9 months to sort that position out. You know, this is all about doing it at a time that perhaps suits you without any stress, that gives you the best options if you need, you know, to be doing something you didn't expect. So those that haven't done the tax return, my next session on QT, assuming they want me to stick around, is on Wednesday the 29th of November at 11 o'clock. And it is quite possible that we can get your tax return done before Christmas. So that's like, what, 3 weeks? It is very still possible to do and not do it in a panic in January. So if that is your position and you still need to do it and you just want a little bit of support or accountability, or a kick up the backside, if that works for you. I find I have to do that quite often, a bit of nagging, but sometimes just a bit of clarity. Right, go do that first, then come back. Right, now go and do that, now come back. Right, just sometimes that's what we need, and you know, then come along to that, and then the tax return will be done, and we can all breathe a sigh of relief until at least April. And if in the meantime you have any questions that are not in this chat, that I've just been seeing the number going up and up and up, which I'm going to look at in a second, if you have any questions, the first place to ask them is in the QT Small Business Accounts Hub, because if you have the question, it is highly likely that lots of other people have the same question. And there are no such thing as stupid questions. The only stupid question is the one that you do not ask. None of us knows what we do not know about certain things. I would not know hardly anything about what you guys tutoring. Why would you know about this if you've never been in business before, if you've never done this before? You wouldn't. If you are shy and you don't want to put it in the account so for everybody to see, send me a message and I'll put it in there anonymously. But as I say, I will probably put it in there because people will be asked wanting the same question and just be even shyer than you. I do have some off QT community ways of getting in touch with me as well. But as I said, the community is probably the best place because you're all in the same boat. You know, you're all doing the same thing. You're all asking the same questions. So that's where we go. So I'm going to stop that share now. And I'm going to
That was fantastic.
Here.
That was fantastic.
And so video, that's what if I do it wrong? Okay.
That was Hayley's question, and we were all thinking it.
Yeah, that's feel the fear and do it anyway. That is one way, yes, but obviously it helps if you've got a bit of support, and that's really why I do what I do. I've only been doing this year, really, because since about this time last year I started, because I realized that there were lots of communities of sole traders. The one I got into before I found the tutor group was vets. I mean, who knew that most vets were sole traders? Because I didn't. And they even, you know, they like all of you, they're professionals, they are clever people, you know, highly intelligent and very, very good at what they do. But come tax returns and they're like, you know, they don't, they get it. So I basically hold hands through and guide people on how to do it. But I come from a place of, I'm going to give you the skills and the knowledge to do it yourself. But with a tax return, just remember that you can go in and you can start it and you can answer all the questions, provided you do not press submit at the end on that very last page. It doesn't go anywhere. You can put whatever rubbish you want in that. Now, trust me, I've done demos on this because I'm not a sole trader. I'm actually a limited company, but I do have to do a self-assessment. So I have gone in and made myself Mickey Mouse and put all kinds of rubbish in there to show people what the different screens are. And provided you do not press submit at the end, you can go in and out many times as you like, answer the questions as differently as you like, put in anything and it doesn't go anywhere. So provided, as I say, you don't press submit, go and have a play and don't be scared. Really, you know, and if you're actually doing it now doing it for yourself, sit there and just answer the questions in the best way that you can. And then, as I say, there are other people doing this as well, but I will sit there and I will go through the screens and say, well, yeah, that's right. No, actually, you need to do that. And, you know, do it at the end. So, okay, so the field of fear.
Hayley, did that help? Hayley, did that help?
Is it okay if I unmute to answer? Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you. It did. Actually, I was thinking from Sam's story, which was kind of crazy that they recovered £2.38 in tax. But so would that be the kind of the consequence of getting it wrong? Would that first step for them be, okay, something looks wrong here, so we'll just check it and then take the amount of tax that you didn't?
Yes. In effect, right, you're more likely to get picked up on a random check. They do a certain number of random checks. Now, I'm hearing at the moment from the accounting community two different stories. One is that HMRC have got no staff, so they're not doing any investigations. I'm not inclined to believe that. I'm more inclined to believe those that are saying, well, they gave us all this money in lockdown, and the government have to get it back somehow. And part of that is going to be through HMRC and people now paying taxes on what they owe. So I am hearing stories that there are 20% more random investigations on the little guy, on the likes of you and me, than what there have been in previous years. Because clearly they had an issue with lockdown and no staff and everything as well. And you'd think that they would go after the big guys, the Amazons and the supermarkets and the whatever, but they'll tie them up in knots and they'll get audits and they'll get accounts, forensic accounts, and they'll take them to court and they'll appeal and they'll tie them up for years and years and years. Whereas most and I don't really think it's going to be more like business, like professional sole traders, like service-based people. I think it's probably more likely going to be your tradespeople, I think, that they will pick on. And they'll come along and they'll go, well, we don't agree with your numbers and we've done a calculation based on this and we want £1,000, £2,000. Most people are going to go, there you go, bye. They're going to pay it just to make it go away. Whether it's right or wrong, they'll pay it to make it go away. Because most of us, even if we have in our heart of hearts done everything that we thought was correct and we haven't deliberately done anything wrong, we don't want the hassle. We don't, I mean, who's got time for that anyway? You know, I mean, you just haven't got time for it. Your life's busy enough as it is. So they're likely to come after more little guys and get more money in that way. If you do get picked and they do find something, they go, well, what's that? And you explain what it is. And they go, oh, well, no, we don't agree that you should have had that. And you can say, well, no, well, the reason I put it in was because I saw this that said I could, but their website is ambiguous and a bit vague, to say the least, in some areas. So they will go, right, okay, well, no, you shouldn't have had that. So basically, we want the tax back that you didn't pay by virtue of claiming it. So that's going to be probably 20%. Then they'll go, well, actually, well, all right, you made a mistake. You probably weren't to know, so we'll little fine, if a fine at all. Or they go, well, actually, you didn't know, but you could have gone to find out, but you didn't. So there's a bigger fine. Or really, you know, that really deliberately, you knew you should not have had that, you know, your honeymoon to Las Vegas job, you really knew you shouldn't have had that. So here's a massive fine, you know. So yeah, as I said, they're always going to want to try to find something, you know, but if you've got good records and good proof, and don't panic, then the likelihood is it will be £2.38 and a slap on the wrist, and that'll be it, you know. But yes, I mean, if you put in numbers that really don't make sense, then yeah, it's gonna flag, you know. So, but if you're doing everything, you know, sensibly and right, then you know you just pot luck, really, I'm afraid. So
it's worth appealing if you see something that they've questioned, but you think, actually, I read about that and I'm sure that was right.
Yeah,
it is worth appealing it and not just
yes, yeah,
away.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, odds on are they'll come and do the investigation when you're trying to juggle 3 million balls in the air as it is, because the kids are sick and you know your mum's fell and broke a leg, or you know, and you know your job's really, really stressful, and you know, so they'll always pick the wrong time of your life for it. So it's whether you can actually be bothered or you can just go, yeah, okay, you know, here, just go away, leave me alone. Really. So what's Katie put?
There's a lot of demystifying in this conversation. It's really helpful. Just like the fact that you're not scared of them and you're sort of it's the sort of handling process that feels very, you're sticking a pin in the scary bits of it, I find.
Yeah, it is being made to be mysterious and scary and everything else, and really it's not. It's actually quite straightforward if you just pick the bits that apply to you, because when it is such a huge topic and everybody's different, even two of you in this same room will do your accounts in a different way, will have different personal circumstances, will have different ways of learning and dealing with things and handling, putting things in a spreadsheet. So you know, it is just about picking the bits that you need to comply with and picking the way that works easiest for you. So that's what it is. Yeah. So
let's see what else you pull out from the chat.
Katie has put, she's found out too late that their accountants weren't doing it right. Yes, accountants are not infallible. Accountants are great. I know lots of accountants. I trained to be one, didn't qualify. That's a different story. Not because I failed, but just because life was the wrong time for me. Accountants are great, and you go along and say, right, I'm going to start a business, I need an accountant to do this. They'll go, fine, okay, you need to do this, this and this, and then just send us all the stuff and we'll do it for you. I find that lots of accountants, and I'm not saying all of them, but lots of them, they're not very good communicators. They, as I said, they're very good at what they do, and they know the stuff about tax, and they have studied really hard, and they do their CPD. So if you have complicated tax affairs, yes, absolutely, an accountant is going to save you money, because they spend the time learning all the new stuff, because rules change all the time. But what I have found is that they'll happily answer a question that you ask them, but if you don't ask the question, they won't answer it for you. They're not proactive in saying, well, actually, hang on, have you thought about this? Does this bit apply to you? Because it's such a huge subject, but also because there's just so many rules for so many different situations. So if you don't ask the question, you don't get the answer. So you don't know. But you don't know.
And you don't even know what to ask.
You don't know what to ask. This is just it. You don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what to ask. So they don't tell you. So, and it's things, and it is really simple things sometimes, like, well, I'm in business, and they might not ask, well, the other questions like, well, have you got a job? Have you got a pension? Have you got, are you paying into a pension, or are you receiving a pension? Have you got a rental property? Have you, and all of these things will affect your tax. They'll go, well, you didn't tell me. Well, because I didn't know I had to tell you, So, yeah, so accountants are not infallible. And sadly, at the moment as well, that they were very much impacted by COVID, and they are much under pressure. And there is a huge shortage of staff in the industry as well, so they are, if you can,
accountants and psychiatrists.
Well, yes, probably, yes. Yes, we all need one of them.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you know the basics for your situation, then that's always going to be best.
So that's what Katie's saying here, and right at the end of the chat, she's saying that yeah, no probs. Thanks, Richard. See you again soon. Katie's saying that they didn't ask whether or not she had a student loan.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yes. So independent tutors are the same as, oh no, you couldn't be as bad as tradesmen. I assure you could not be as bad as most tradesmen.
But you sort of put us in the bracket of tradesmen there at the end when you said they're going after the little guys. So I was quite intrigued by that.
I think they will more chase them than the likes of tutors and vets and service-based businesses.
Okay.
Because although tradesmen are service-based, obviously, clearly, there's a lot of, they deal more with, there's lots more scope for forgetting things, shall we say, and losing paperwork.
Still live on LinkedIn.
Yes, because and because they're practical, they're tradesmen, they're practical people. By definition, most of them, and I'm not being horrible to them, are not academic. So paperwork and admin and things doesn't generally come naturally to them. Whereas
the rest of us love it.
as probably most of you, I'm guessing, are ex-teachers, and probably the paperwork you had to deal with, I'd be horrified by.
Oh, very good. That's why we love stationery.
Yeah, yes, yeah, we all love a bit of stationery, yes. So it's only because you've got there's web designers and graphic designers and hairdressers and just all of the small business owners out there. We are a nation of small business owners, and most of us are service based, so there's very little on expenses we can get away with. But with a tradesman, kitchen fitters buys 5 kitchens, invoices 4 kitchens, puts them in for clients, happy days. So at the end of the year you say, right, okay, so what's the value of the kitchen that's left? There isn't a kitchen left. Well, no, you bought 5, you've installed 4. Where's the other one? Oh, well, I did it in my mate's house. So where's the invoice? Well, no, he paid me cash. No, you can't do that. You see, and you have to explain this to them, that they can't, there are things involved that haven't a trail, whereas in service-based, there very often isn't that. It's literally only your time that you're swapping for money. So,
right.
So it's there's very little else you can get away with that would be worth doing, because as I say, you're not stupid people, so you something's going to have to be really, really worth your while to do if it even feels a little bit not sure about whether I should be doing this.
Now, Tracey, we need to spend 10 minutes before we wrap up making that PDF with you, because Hayley's just asked a really important question, which is, stationery counts as a valid expense, right?
It does.
Oh, very good.
It does indeed, yes. Stationery, yes, yeah. Your
What do you
definition
do
of
on a down
stationery may be
day?
different, but yes, folders and notebooks and pens and pretty coloured inks and all
Trips to
kinds of
paper
things like that.
chase.
Yeah, all of
What?
that. Yeah,
All
yeah,
of that.
yeah. The fact that you've got a stock that you could open a shop with, I know, you say. So, okay, so UTR, yes, unique tax registration number. That's the one, yeah. It's not to ruin Christmas yet. So, yeah, let's get it done before Christmas.
So, no, but that's really interesting. So the seasons, because you said do it in April, because you said, look at me with the learning. You said the financial year ends on the 6th of April.
The 5th of April, yeah.
Okay, so you can spend the rest of April doing the thing that we've been talking about.
Yeah, the thing.
The thing.
Tax return,
I can't
Julie.
say that. I can't.
Why do they want to discourage people from completing their own tax returns? They actually don't, because they think that most people will get it wrong, so they'll be able to come after you. But they're trying to, and the accountants don't want it. They're saying you go and use an accountant because an accountant's a specialist, So whereas I wouldn't ask the local hairdresser to teach my child extra maths, for instance, I would use a tutor. They want you to, but there aren't enough accountants. There just aren't. And even accountants are going, we don't want it. They don't want to charge £200 to do a tax return for you when they can be charging a company, several £1,000s to be doing what actually they're really good at, which is cost saving and saving tax.
Did I not hear that there's going to be a great big tech solution to all of this in a minute?
Yeah, that's a whole new issue.
Somebody's husband was telling me this, and I'm doing my best to follow. But what was it that basically everything gets traced, and so everything gets taxed at point of sale?
Basically, yes. So sorry, just going back to what Sam said, she said do it in the summer when tutoring is traditionally quiet. Yes, if you can't do it in April, I mean, I'm using April as the very earliest you can do it, but yeah, July and August is a fabulous time to do it, because you are not hopefully working too much. You've got time and you can do it without any stress, and you can get it done before you go back to work in September.
So Tracey, let's plan a boot camp for the summer.
Yeah, we can do a boot camp for summer. Absolutely can. Fantastic. Yeah, because 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is you get is.
I think Hayley's in.
Sorry, Hayley's in. She right?
Hayley's in. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about making tax digital, income tax for self-assessment, or MTD for ITSA, to give it its very short name.
It wasn't short.
No, but MTD for ITSA is, yes, they were going to bring this in April next year, whereas everybody has to do their tax returns electronically, which means keeping electronic accounts, which means using one of those account systems that you see on the telly.
Right.
However, they've delayed it for 2 years. So it now won't kick in till April 26. And they've changed the criteria. It was going to be everybody whose turnover was more than £10,000 a year, which was virtually going to be everybody. Because if you're not turning over £10,000 a year, why are you doing it in the first place? It's now going to be the first year is going to be everybody that turns over more than £50,000. So that is going to not apply to most sole traders. Second year is 30,000, and what will happen after that, we're not quite sure. However, the reason it's been delayed is because there are so many variables. Everybody's got different circumstances. HMRC have not yet been able to pin down exactly what the software needs to do, so they haven't been able to tell the software developers.
Oh, fantastic.
So the likes of Sage and Xero and QuickBooks cannot create the system to do the thing because HMRC can't quite decide what it is it needs it to do. Okay, so we've used the word ambiguity a few times here. Yeah, so so at the moment that's not even a consideration, shouldn't be on anybody's radar. Clearly it's on mine, because if it does kick in, then I'm going to have lots of people to help. But for you guys, it doesn't even need. But if you feel that an accounting system would be useful to you because of the way your brain works, because you want it all in one place, because you want to be prepared for whatever reason, then it is never a bad time to come and use one. Just be aware there will be a cost. But if you don't get the right support to set it up in the first place, the cost will be higher because you'll probably make a mess of it and you'll need to unpick it all and start again.
Okay.
So just if anybody wants to talk about that, I'm happy to do so. But I would say, but 99 out of 100 of you probably don't need that yet.
Okay, so I'm going to start wrapping us up now. So I'm going to point us to inside the QT community in Tracey's hub, which is the small business accounts hub, which I am very, very proud that we now have. What that means for you is that that's where we'll collate our list of taxable, not taxable, what's the word?
Common allowable expenses is what
allowable, very nice, expenses. So we'll collate that list there. Sam wants to get stuck into that, so that's really exciting. So if you just set up the prompt there, Tracey, by asking the question, we'll start getting that conversation going for you. And then I think you mentioned your Wednesday coaching on the 29th, which is awesome. Looking forward to learning more about that. We've just planned a boot camp, haven't we, for the summer to help people to get their... What? That's how we do stuff around here.
Okay, that's what I can live with that. So boot camp so that'll be will that be August? Probably. I don't know when you guys break up. My child's 25. I don't need to do school holidays anymore. Okay,
so let's discuss that in the chat. When is the best month? Because tutors also need to put their feet up. So
they do.
Yeah. But we did find last year that people were really, really working hard to get their ducks in a row for this year during the summer.
Yeah.
So it's definitely wise. Sam said that she felt that the accounting system felt like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
It can be. Yes, it absolutely can be if all you're doing is raising invoices or getting, individuals are paying you and you're maybe not doing that much. You may be raising, 10 invoices a week, even as would be a lot, I guess. So yeah, it can be useful, but yeah, it's not necessary.
Okay, so my lovely friends, I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to thank Tracey. I'm going to remind you that next week we have Love Tutoring Autumn Festival, all of Thursday, free online for you guys to join. We've got Gospel, who's here in the room. He'll be talking about financial mindset. We've got tutors and exams talking to us about exam anxiety. We have Helen Dickman teaching us from Love Mondays Club, which is the second best name for Love Mondays Club. Is she's going to be talking to us about marketing without social media, which has really piqued my interest. And we'll be starting the morning with a full-blown supervision circle. So that will be a 90-minute mastermind with Jacqueline and Lorna from Pursuit of Wisdom, where tutors will be discussing their own genuine issues in a high-trust, non-recorded environment so that we can really dig into how to support each other. They're really, really special sessions that are making a massive difference because they're reflective and they're safe. So that's next week. The week after, as you've heard, we've got Tracey. There's always stuff going on around here. So please lean into the community, make use of it, because it's there for us to support each other. Hayley, you're doing brilliantly on the course right now. Anybody who's busy on the Foundations of Effective Tutoring course will know that it's all happening over there as well. Have a lovely weekend, Tracey. Thank you so much for bringing your support and wisdom and experience to us. I definitely feel like you're one of us. So I wanted to wrap up with sharing with you that the teaching and learning that you delivered in this session was really effective. So thank you so much. Okay, thanks Hayley, thanks Sam, thanks Cheryl, thanks everyone who joined us on LinkedIn. Bye.